Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's Reddit stories are from Am I the Butthole? Story 1 is by Turbulent Body 5161. Am I the butthole for letting my parents know that I'm not getting involved in helping them with my estranged sister's kids? I'm a 29 female and I've been estranged from my sister Elizabeth, who's 32 female, for the last 8 years. Back when I was 21, I was engaged to my ex, Frankie, who's 30 male, and I had just found out I was pregnant. I told Elizabeth because she was my big sister and we were there for each other. It had been a huge shock to me because I got pregnant while on birth control. Elizabeth acted slightly off when I told her, and at the time I thought she was disappointed in me getting pregnant before finishing college. Days after I told her I was pregnant, she told me she and Frankie had been together behind my back for 3 years of my 5-year relationship with him. Not only were they going behind my back like that, but he had proposed to her and given her a family ring. She told me she wanted me to get an abortion and leave them to be together. I miscarried around the time everything was coming out. I ended the engagement and Frankie moved in with Elizabeth. I did not speak to either of them. My parents were torn between both of us. My grandma, who lives with my parents, had been firmly on my side. They said what Elizabeth had done was awful, but she was still a good person. We all knew the kindness she had inside of her and how she had been a good big sister until she wasn't. They respected that I did not want anything to do with Elizabeth when I was firm, though, and they did not try to change my mind. 8 years later, and I'm happily married now and expecting a baby with my husband, Gray. Elizabeth and Frankie did get married, and they have children together. My parents have grown very concerned over Elizabeth as a mother. Grandma says she's very shallow and treats her kids like they're accessories and cares little for them or their well-being. She just wants them to look good and wear cute things she picks out. Grandma rolled her eyes telling me all this. My parents are trying to intervene and protect Elizabeth's kids. They have mentioned it to me twice. The last time, I got some vibes from them that they might ask me to intervene as well. I decided to get ahead of their ask by telling them I'm not going to get involved in helping them with Elizabeth's kids. I said it felt like they were on the verge of asking and I wanted to save them the effort. My parents were stunned and questioned why I wouldn't want to get to know my nieces. I said we might be blood related, but that's as far as it would go given what their parents had done to me. I also told my parents I had no obligation to expose myself to Elizabeth again, and that it didn't surprise me too much that someone who would betray their own sister that way and ask her to get an abortion so her own relationship with her ex would be easier would be a terrible mom to her kids and would see them as accessories. My parents said my attitude is too cold, and since I have moved on and found happiness, I should find love for my nieces. Am I the butthole? No, that's about all I've got to say on that one. There's people out there who are that forgiving, who will just, I'll be involved in my niece's life. I forgive my sister, but it's absolutely not a requirement. You're welcome to do your own thing. Our next story is by Dry Enthusiasm 2661. Am I the butthole for telling my sister-in-law that she doesn't have to wash everything before her baby is born? My sister-in-law is expecting her first baby at the end of the month. I have 3 kids. My youngest just turned 1, so I have a lot of baby stuff, baby swing, clothes, toys, etc., that we don't need anymore. Instead of donating them, I thought it would be nice to let my sister-in-law and her wife look at them before. I brought them over and they picked out what they wanted, and my sister-in-law immediately put it in the washing machine. I'm a very clean person, and all of the baby stuff was clean, so I confronted my sister-in-law. I asked her why she needed to clean my stuff. It wasn't dirty, and she knows I'm not dirty. My sister-in-law said that she's cleaning everything and named a long list of things she's cleaning or cleaned for the baby. Sterilized all bottles and pacifiers, washed all blankets, clothing, etc. I told my sister-in-law that it's pretty stupid to wash everything, because what if she wants to take something back, and it's not like cleaning everything in her house is going to make her prepared for the baby. Nothing prepares you for your first. My sister-in-law took this as me being mean, but I was trying to be helpful. She should enjoy her last few weeks of pregnancy instead of cleaning everything. My sister-in-law's wife told me that we are allowed to do things differently with our children. I pointed out to them that they've never had children, so she's going to feel silly for doing all this. I also told them that when I was pregnant with my first, I didn't want to listen to anyone, and I regretted it later. They will too. My sister-in-law made it seem like I was being a jerk, but I don't see it. Am I the butthole? Yeah, you are. Why does it bother you that she's continuing to clean? Whether she regrets it or not later, she's in this mode where she's trying to create a clean, healthy environment for her kid. They call it nesting, and I see absolutely no reason for you to prevent them from doing what they want to do to prepare for their kid. She'll never be prepared, that's true, but at least she's doing something that gives her purpose and keeps her focused. Let it be. Our next story is by Apprehensive Dingo 510. Am I the butthole for going on a trip and abandoning my family? I'm 35 female and I married my husband Ed, who's 40 male, when I was 25. He already had an established career, owned his home, etc. He understood my need for this same established career and property in my own name. I worked hard to get both of these by the time I was 32, but the pressure from both my parents and his family made us decide to have a child. Since everything was 50-50 up to the childbirth, I expected the same after, too. I took care of house management and children in my paid maternity leave. After the 6 months were up, I wanted to go back to work. My husband suggested I stay home with the baby until she turned 2. I didn't want to take a break from my career, but the fact was that he out-earned me, and a logical solution was that he would support the both of us. But then, COVID happened. We couldn't send her to daycare. I was again the primary parent for 2 more years, even though my husband worked from home. I didn't complain since he was the sole bread earner. But last year, I finally got a job and started sending our daughter to kindergarten. I was happy. I was more committed to the job than ever. But I had to work long hours, and this meant splitting home chores and childcare. Maybe it was the break he got for 4 years, but hubby seemed to get depressed and agitated at having to do chores. He mentioned here and there how it was unfair he had to do these, when clearly I could do it all. Yesterday, my boss asked me to travel next week for a work thing. It's a week-long trip and expected in my profession. When I told hubby this, he was incredibly mad at me, saying I shouldn't commit to a trip like this since I have duties at home. I reminded him whenever he went on work trips, I managed it all by myself. He said it's not the same since I am a woman. I didn't like that and told him it's his duty as a partner and a parent. Gender has nothing to do with it. I refused to back down from the trip. He called both sets of parents and they are now blasting my phone, telling me as a wife and mom, my primary responsibility is my family, that I shouldn't abandon Ed. No matter my arguments saying if I can do it all, so can he, they are saying that I'm being a selfish butthole for going. Am I the butthole? Nope, and your husband and your parents are sexist. They believe that a woman's role is at home taking care of the children. You got pushed into this role by your parents and by Ed. You didn't want to have a kid. Your parents pushed you into this role, and now they're mad at you for wanting to go on a trip that's required for your work. If your husband can't turn around at this point and say, yeah, I remember that your career and personal property ownership is important to you from when you were 25. I'm going to manage this by myself. Have a good trip. He should say that. Otherwise, he's a big-time jerk. You've been pushed into this traditional role, and it's time for you to step out of it, and if they don't like it, tough. And you're not the butthole for doing it. They will go out of their way to make you feel like the butthole, but it's not you. It's your husband and your parents. Both sets. You're not going on a vacation. You're going on a work trip. Just go. Our last story is by Am I the Butthole Bear? They made this account just to post this story. Am I the butthole for refusing to let my wife wake our daughter up to see a bear? My wife, kids, 12 female, 10 female, 8 male, 6 male, 4 male, and I just spent 3 weeks at our cabin while we got some repairs done on our house. Our 10-year-old Rose has leukemia. A lot of the activities around the cabin are outdoors, but Rose doesn't usually have the energy for that. So one of her favorite activities has been watching wildlife from this big window seat in the master bedroom and taking pictures of what she sees. Her goal since she started doing this was to see a bear. There are some in the area, but it's not too common to see one. She has me take her up to the window seat after dinner and usually falls asleep watching for bears. Toward the end of the 3 weeks, I had to take her to the hospital for chemo, 3.5 hours each way. That night, she fell asleep in the window seat again, and when I got up to carry her to bed, there were 2 bears close to our cabin. I called my wife over to see, and I took a picture on Rose's iPad, but my wife wanted to wake Rose up so she could see. She hadn't gotten to see a bear this trip. I told my wife that she needs to rest, and that showing her the picture would be enough, but my wife still tried to wake her up. I stopped her again and got Rose in the bed. The next morning, I told Rose that there were bears last night, and I showed her the picture. She asked if I woke her up. I said yes because I didn't want her to get upset, but my wife told Rose that I wouldn't let anyone wake her up. We didn't see any more bears for the rest of the trip, and Rose has been devastated. She refuses to speak to me and deleted the pictures I took for her because apparently it doesn't count. She's even refusing to sleep next to me. She has been sleeping between me and my wife since she got sick. So my wife has had to sleep in Rose's room since the trip. My wife is even talking about taking Rose back to the cabin for a week to try to see a bear. I don't think it's a big deal, but my wife and Rose are still upset with me, so I wanted to know if I was the butthole. Are you kidding me? Yes, you are. Her goal this entire trip was to see a bear. She went to the window every single day trying to see a bear. You lied to her and said yes, you tried waking her up. You absolutely know that you did the wrong thing here. And they're justified in being mad at you. Yes, she needs the rest. Yes, she's sick. But for the entire 3 weeks, she wanted to see a bear. You decided that since she had been to a chemotherapy appointment and she was tired, she couldn't wake up and see these bears. What is wrong with you? In the comments below by Practical Primrose, you're the butthole. You decided for her, even though your wife was clearly telling you that you were wrong. Then you disregarded your wife's opinion as well. And guess what? You were wrong. So from this outsider's perspective, it looks like my female child does not really know what she wants. My female spouse does not know either. They don't really know their own minds. I know better. I really hope I'm wrong. But you might need to sit with this some and ask why you chose this. Also, why lie about it? It either mattered, so wake her, or it didn't, so be honest. Right, you lied about it because you knew this would upset her. You should have woken her up. Man, I really hope your wife can get her out to the cabin and they can see a bear together, because she may not live a whole lot longer with leukemia. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a splendid day.